Another legal setback for the Trump travel ban. A federal appeals court refused to hear the administration's emergency weekend request to overturn a judge's ruling that temporarily halted the ban nationwide. As a result, U.S. visa holders from 7 majority Muslim countries targeted by Trump's order, as well as refugees from Syria and elsewhere, can continue to board flights bound for U.S. cities. Protests against the travel ban and other Trump administration policies continued around the U.S., including at Trump's luxury resort in Florida, where he was staying Saturday and Sunday.
Let's keep moving!
The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals gave Justice Department attorneys and the Attorneys General of Washington State and Minnesota until Monday to prepare written arguments for and against the legality of the ban. Trump ridiculed federal Judge James Robart of Seattle for overturning his ban. On Twitter, he called Robart a so-called judge whose ruling is ridiculous, adding that many very bad and dangerous people may be pouring into our country. Trump's personal criticism of a federal judge is virtually unprecedented in modern times and calls into question his understanding of and appreciation for the separation of powers, a doctrine that is at the center of the American system of government. Vice President Mike Pence was asked if it was appropriate for Trump to question the judge's legitimacy in an interview on the U.S. network ABC.
Is it right for the president to say so-called judge? Doesn't that undermine the separation of powers in the Constitution written right next door?
Well, I don't think it does. I think the American people are very accustomed to this president speaking his mind and speaking very straight with them.
On Monday, the government will argue that Trump's power to admit or expel non-citizens is absolute and cannot be challenged in court.
And Rob Reynolds joins us now from Washington. Rob, so things stay the same for the time being, but the issue is far from over. What's going to be happening next?
Well, the thing that legal scholars that I've spoken to say is lacking in what the administration has done is that they have not provided any evidence, any facts, and this was pointed out by Judge Robart in his hearing on Saturday, any facts to indicate any affidavits or statements under oath by the Secretary of Homeland Security, the Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, anything like that, that would indicate that there is a factual underpinning for President Trump's order excluding tens of thousands of people from entering the United States. It was written up basically in the Oval Office without consultation with those other agencies, and courts, if you know courts, are going to look for evidence and facts rather than simply an assertion of presidential prerogative. So this is what's going to have to be argued out before the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in the coming days. And it's a complex legal process that could, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but it could go all the way to the Supreme Court if there is a negative outcome for the administration in the appeals court.
Donald Trump attacked the judge, Judge Robart, on Twitter, the federal judge in Washington, calling him a so-called judge. I imagine that's not going down very well among legal folk in the U.S.
You know, Folly, this is the second time that Donald Trump has criticized and ridiculed and spoken out harshly about a federal judge. The first time was during the presidential campaign. He attacked Judge Galonzo Curiel, who was overseeing a case involving the alleged fraud in the Trump University that Donald Trump controlled at that time. He said that Curiel was a Mexican and therefore was not able to adequately, fairly decide any case involving Trump. Of course, the judge actually was born in the state of Indiana in the United States. But, you know, judges are going to see this not so much in personal terms, but I think in institutional terms. So they will see a president who is openly contemptuous of and perhaps lacks full understanding of the role of the judiciary. And I think judges in their institutional role will not respond to that kindly and will seek to assert their traditional role as established over the past, say, 220 years of United States government.
Thank you for that, Rob. Rob Reynolds, live for us in Washington.